everybody, and welcome to Sportcat's Daily Gazette. Let me get the screen organized here, and we will get carried on here. I want to thank Jurgs over at jurgsradio.com. If you were listening over there, we're still continuing. And, of course, we can't forget Radio Australia, Radio X in Australia, because, well, we're their morning show, which is kind of crazy. So, because I think it's like 3 a.m. over there. So welcome to everybody listening on Radio X in Australia. Welcome to everybody in our chat. And let's see, we have Wendell. Hello, Wendell. Welcome back, Carter. Yeah. And yes, we are back. Good afternoon. I apologize for being a little late. Welcome, Chris. Thank you. I apologize for being a little late, but Ross and I, we are like cats and dogs. He's the big dog on the porch, and I'm the cat under the porch that comes and claws him. So we get into it a little bit over there before we start live over here. So you can always check us out over there on Jurgs Radio for the first few minutes if you don't hear us here. But yeah. So we got going. So to tell everybody what happened with me, well, as you know, I'm in Tennessee still. I'm helping to take care of some family members. And somehow during lifting up some of my family members off the floor about 20 times, I had already pulled my back and I knew it, but I did something and it just tossed it completely out. So I spent 2 days basically on my back with a heating pad and ice taking NSAIDs. So, but I'm back and I'm upward. I'm mobile. Still hurt a little bit, but it is what it is. So it will be okay. I'll get well here soon. So I've had worse things happen to me. I mean, goodness gracious, I had a roof fall on me when I was a firefighter, and I survived that incident. So, all right, well, everybody, we're live over here on YouTube. You can come over and find us at the Para are Normal Guys. 3 words, Para are Normal, and guys is spelled with a Z. That's the 4th word, by the way. I do know math. And come over and join our chat. We have a lot of good folk in the chat. We have Chris, Wendell, usually sometimes Brenda, Denise, all kinds of people in there. So, but let's start off our show, and we're going to have so many things to go over because I've been out that we may not get into any trending news or sports or entertainment. And that WNBA star, I wanted to go into that. Wendell, she fell. In case anybody didn't know, my aunt fell overnight one night, and when she fell, she actually broke 2 ribs at the base of our rib cage. We have 2 ribs that are floating. They're not attached to the sternum, which is the center part of your chest. And there was some bleeding from the tear around the muscles that hold the chest wall together. And so there was never any respiratory or any breathing compromise, but she did have a rib injury. She's currently getting rehabilitated as far as moving and walking. I don't know if you've ever had a rib injury, but it hurts to breathe. So Chris says he wasn't trying to be a smart ass. Well, no, I didn't think that, Chris. I deserve all the ribbing I can get anyhow. But yeah, she's doing well. She's in a facility where they do a lot of physical therapy, and they're going to help her basically walk. And you've got to also do breathing exercises, because what happens is your body tries to what they call guard. And so you won't breathe as deep on one side. And on the right side, if you know your anatomy and physiology, that's the larger of the 2 lungs. And so you have to do exercises to basically train your body to breathe fully, even though it hurts. So there's a lot of rehab that goes into that. You have to actually also have to do a thing on inhaling, because when you inhale, the diaphragm pushes up. So you have to retrain your body, because your body will naturally guard itself, and it'll be like, yeah, no, I'm only going this far. You have to kind of teach your body again to breathe. And unfortunately, since they're really not attached to anything, the growth back is really slow. And a lot of times they can do surgery, but at her age, that wasn't really an option. So yes, it is very painful. Any rib injury, I don't know if you've ever had one, but it hurts to breathe. It hurts to move. It hurts to do anything. And I knew as soon as I did my assessment on her, I felt her. What you do is you get behind the patient, and you basically, as a paramedic, you grab the ribs and you kind of see what kind of movement or you got there. And I felt the pop, and I was like, yeah, we need to go to the hospital with this one. This this isn't going to be a normal bruising thing. So anybody that follows me on Facebook saw my Monday morning post with the fire trucks and ambulances and all the red lights out there. I was like, yeah, this is how I started my morning. So, but we're doing better. And then I fell out. So if it ain't one thing, it's 20. And, if I'm getting old, it sucks. Pretty much that's my way of looking at it. All right. So we're going to start off with a little silliness today because we're going to have some heavy things in here. So we're just going to start off a little silly. Today is National Banana Day. Did you know that? The third Wednesday in April is Banana Day. Everybody says that they're you slipped on a banana peel, and then there's so they're in the joke world, but they're also in the serious world because, there's a lot of good things that come out of bananas. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it, but they're actually native to Asia, which means we're going to probably see a price increase. And they are now grown in more tropical regions, but they're native to Asia. They're very high in potassium, vitamin C, B6, fiber, of course. And technically, even though a lot of people call them a fruit, they're not a fruit. They're a berry, believe that or not. And a strawberry is not a berry. It's crazy. They grow upside down on the plants, and they're not trees. A lot of people think they're trees because they can get up to 26 feet high, but no. Of course, we use them all for all kinds of things, everything from cooking to baking, and it's actually one of the top fruit producers in the world. And once again, like I said, China is going to be causing us to have some probably high prices. Maybe we can get them from India or Ecuador. I don't know. Let's hope so. But so that's some facts about banana that a lot of people probably didn't know. And, we'll be silly for a minute here. And did you know that they are not GMO, but they are genetically modified? Oh, the bananas we eat typically are seedless because they're called a Cavendish banana, and they're sterile. They can't reproduce, so they are cloned through a sterile vegetative propagation. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And the ones that we get from the big producers are unfortunately lab grown. That's how they start, as puppies. They call them puppies. I don't know, as kittens. So yeah. So hey, Denise, I was let's see, let me catch up in the chat here because I was reading. Wendell says he strained his diaphragm one time and it hurts when you breathe. Yes. Ooh, a diaphragm injury. Oh, they suck. And did we always have stupid days my whole life? Or did I just spend decades with my head and saying, no, every day's pretty stupid. Hello, welcome, Denise. We're glad you're here. And let's see. So, yeah, today is National Banana Day. It's not a fruit. It's a berry. Remember that. That's if I taught you one thing today, that was it. I taught you that. And we can also look and see. Today is National Bean Counter Day. I don't know if that has anything to do with the day after tax day, which is a bad day. It's National Orchid Day. National Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day. I wish I could have done that in Fire EMS. And National Eggs Benedict. I don't know if I've ever had Eggs Benedict. So it's National Healthcare Decisions Day. I'm sure that has something to do with the federal government saying you have to have insurance by today or blah. So, but that's our silliness for today. It is National Banana Day. So if I taught you anything, remember, it's not a fruit, it's a berry. So, all right. Well, FEMA was on the job, even though I wasn't. Today is Wednesday, April 16th at 8:30 a.m. In FEMA world, they produce this for the president. And as we've said many times, my show is pretty much about why we survived the day. There's a lot of shows out there, and I hate to call them out, but like the Canadian Prepper, New York Prepper, they put these clickbait titles of "We're going to die today," breaking news, the signals have been transmitted for the war codes, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, guess what? We survived. We're here. We're going to make it another day. So I'm here to tell you that we're still going to be okay. What is that doing? I don't know why it's doing that. I was trying to make this full screen. Oh, I know what I have to do. I have to hit a button over here. There we go. All right, so let's see. The FEMA Daily Operations Briefing. And Wendell, no, not all berries are fruits and not all fruits are berries. Today is Wednesday, April 16th. This is the same briefing the president gets, with the exception of we don't get the secret squirrel stuff. And FEMA is in the news right now, as many people know, because of one of their things that they denied. I don't really have a lot of research on that, but we will cover it a bit. So they have no significant incidents or operations ongoing. However, they're watching heavy snow still in the plains. Of course, it's fire weather, so we've got to worry about that. And this is a new one here, some space weather. What's up with that? Are the aliens going to come get us? So they did get a request from Kansas for a major declaration, and they're not monitoring any significant events. And as they talked about, heavy snow in the plains. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? Montana, Nebraska, Wyoming, parts of Colorado. My friends in Colorado, she's going to get some snow today. And in the middle of the country, pretty much some rain thunderstorms, but it doesn't look like anything significant. But once again, we have to worry about that dry, hot air down in the southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, parts of Oklahoma, for the critical fire weather. So now today, although there's not any significant thunderstorms or possible for tornadic outbreaks, it doesn't mean that we're out of the danger zone, because Thursday, up here in the central U.S., we'll call it, is going to have a chance of some severe thunderstorms. And then on the following day, Friday, well, Tornado Alley is going to be kicking with some serious stuff stretching from Texas all the way to the Great Lakes. So keep an eye out for that. We'll cover that more as the week goes on. And also one other thing I wanted to kind of mention, some people were talking about this, but we know that the Earth is going through a change, and there's some axis shifts and some jet stream shifts. Tornado Alley is actually shifting more to the east and growing slightly, so that different parts of the country are going to be seeing more tornadic outbreaks because of the jet stream. So, or if you're into the conspiracy theories, Trump did it. So there you go. All right, our snowfall outlook. It's 80 degrees out there. We're talking about snow here in the south. It's not going to be in the south, though. We're looking at heavy snow up in Billings, extending down kind of parallel to Denver. Denver's going to get some serious snow. My friend in Colorado, she's going to get some serious snow. Salt Lake City, they're going to get some serious snow. They're real flat areas, so that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, I can't believe we're talking about snow this time of year. It's crazy. All right, so we talked about fire weather. And once again, that hot, dry air coming off the Pacific and down in the Mexico region is going to cause much of the Southwest to be worried about fire weather. When we talk about fire weather, we're worried about not only the low humidity, we're worried about the wind, and there's other things that could cause it. But usually it's the winds knocking down power lines, unless somebody is stupid and sets them. So there's no real big chance for severe weather today. Pretty much from California through the Midwest, there's a chance of some snow or rainfall, but there's an extending down into Texas, but there's no significant chances for weather today. Of course, once again, I want everybody to be weather aware. I want them to have a weather radio, and I want them to have a flashlight and be prepared, because severe weather can break out at any moment, even though we're not predicting it. But Thursday, up towards where you are, Chris, up in the central United States in the Ohio Valley, they could have some significant weather. And then Friday, pretty much stretching all the way across the country, there's a chance of severe weather. So space weather, what is Chris saying here? Many people have been saying they have never seen more perfect jet streams since Trump. They're perfect, and they're beautiful, and they're big, and they're, I don't know. All right, so space weather outlook. We don't talk about this much, but if you are interested in seeing the aura, what's what pronouncing that right? Yeah, I think so. Tonight is your best chance. It could be extending as far down into the south as Tennessee. So if you're on a mountaintop, this guy, I might go out and look overnight and see if I see anything. I'll look for the UFOs while I'm out there. But the main thing the government is concerned about is communications. And when they say HF communications, that stands for half wave, which means they're a longer, more powerful signal. but they're worried that it's going to impact communications. And if you look at the part of the world they're worried about, what is that? Asia, Russia, that whole Middle East where it could be affected. And what they're worried about, Rocky Top, good old Rocky Top. What they're worried about there is the potential to interrupt communications, including GPS, which can cause problems for airplanes, ships, and any type of projectile navigation. So, contrary to popular belief, FEMA is still trying to help with repopulation in 10 different, it was 12, but now it's 10 different districts. And they're trying to do joint recovery with 6 different. And when I say joint recovery, that's basically transference. They send the FEMA says, hey, you guys got it. It's like a handshake. It's off to the state officials, not the national. And right now they're saying FEMA's abandoning us. FEMA's that no, they're not abandoning you. What they're doing is they're giving it back the power to the state officials. FEMA is great at what they do, but they're not going to come in and set your neighborhood up. That's down to your state, your local people. They will help with the money. They will help give you the resources, but they're not going to physically come in and do it. And that's what the media is trying to make it sound like FEMA's abandoning them. No, FEMA's doing a handshake and letting the state and local officials take over. And I heard one media report today saying, well, they can't even get trains in. That's not true. Railway traffic has been restored in the affected area of the Carolina. Not all. There's not 100%, but enough to where it's making a difference. The road infrastructure isn't 100% yet. There's still parts of interstate closed on 40, but they're making significant enough progress that the government can say, okay, here's the money. You guys handle this. We got to go take care of Kentucky and all these flood zones in West Virginia. So, what did Wendell say? Something about Timu in a box of drowns. I don't know what to. Oh, he's got a box of flashlights coming today. Well, good. You should always have a little flashlight in your pocket. I don't have one in mine at the moment, but you should have a tool, what I call a pocket knife. Wendell says mine's stalled, by the way, and a flashlight within arm's reach at all times, and some type of weather radio. So, but we can see that FEMA is currently operating in, like we talked about, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, in North and South Carolina. North Carolina is more so than South Carolina. They've handed off to the state officials. In Alabama, they're handing off, and they're going to be taking up operations more extensively in the central part of the United States due to the flooding that transpired over the time we were off. But so they're still there to help you. They're just not going to physically help you. And the media didn't report it, but there were teams all across the country that converged into Kentucky, West Virginia, parts of Tennessee, from around the world. I'm talking Canada sent people to help with search and research. But at some point in time, they hand back off and they go take care of their own. You know, the team that I'm so familiar with is Virginia Task Force 1 and Georgia Task Force 1. They went, they helped with the rescue, they started the recovery process. Now they're going back to their state because sometimes their state needs help too. Not in the case of Georgia or Virginia, but other states did. So, but they were there to help. And so they're pulling out and going back in service pretty much. What we say, we call it, we're picking up. And when you hear somebody say, when in public safety say they're picking up, basically means that they're picking up their tools, cleaning them, putting them back and restoring them to service so that they can go home and help other people. So, or go help other people. So some damage assessments we see here: Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, Idaho, Missouri, and Oregon, talking about severe weather and flooding in Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, and the winter storms up in the Midwest with some tornadic. They're still doing assessments, but they're working on that. Only in some areas of Tennessee do they have any complete. Otherwise, they're still, no, that's not true. They have some assessments complete in Arkansas as well. So, and in Idaho. So, new declaration requests. Well, we're talking about Kansas. It was requested on the 15th, and it is for severe winter storms, straight line winds, flooding, and wildfire. Man, can you imagine? They got all that at once going on. And they're calling it statewide, but you can see a lot of their counties are heavily affected by this. And then we see the process for Kentucky, Oklahoma, Hawaii, Missouri are in progress for declaration of requests. Some of them are new, like the Kansas one. Others are quite old, going back to Kentucky with severe winter. They're now going to be having them for severe storms, as you see, April 11th there. So, and what did Wendell say? I'm glad I'm getting an earbud that translate language to English. Go and see what Bigfoot is saying. But if you get it from T-Mode, it'll probably, well, never mind. I'll be good. Good luck. I bought a little camera, and about two of them. One of them didn't work at all, and so I reported it to them, and they basically told me they didn't care. They had my money. I was, oh, thanks. So, oh well, I'll figure it out eventually. It's got like 4 buttons, and the instruction manual isn't in anything that I can read. So, all right. So we talked about the president's daily briefing. If you're with us regularly, you know that every day they have an in pool, which means the president's going to be there. Report time at 9 a.m. for the press. Means they want the press there at 9 a.m. in case they decide some breaking news is going to stir us up today. They want to be able to go right to the media. So I'd like to have them there. 11:30 a.m. Well, about 2 hours ago, no, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, the president received his briefing, what I'm giving to you right now. And then at 6:30 tonight, he's going to participate in an Easter prayer service and dinner that will be held in the White House in the Blue Room. They call it blue because it's blue, I guess. I don't know. And the press pool will be welcome. So looking back over the schedule for the past couple days we've missed, it doesn't really look like there's been anything too significant. Our press secretary did get into it with some of the media, but other than that, we had the president El Salvador visit. He was invited into the Oval Office. Yes, Ross. So there's been some things going on this week, but nothing significant today. So there's the president's schedule. I'm sure during the time he's not there, we see him. He's doing other things. I'm guessing. I don't know. I can't make this up. All right. So this is our Earth in real time. This is the cloud cover. You see basically this is one of our fun maps where if you're listening on Yerg's radio or Rainbow Radio or Radio X in Australia, you can't really see it, but it's a big, beautiful globe. And it's all the satellite images. They try and do it in real time. That's kind of an exaggeration because there is a delay for several reasons. But it's pretty close to real time. And you can see the cloud cover, and you can spin the big, beautiful, perfect round globe around and look at what the cloud conditions are around the world. It's brought to us by our friends over at NOAA. And you can also see, if you're paying attention, you can see where they've stitched together the time to where you can actually see it's dark. I always wondered, why is there nothing down here? Why is it always, are we Earth on a stick? And for those of you on the radio, at the base of the Earth, it's just a big, round, dark circle. There's nothing there. It's a void. I always wondered about that because up at the top, there isn't. I mean, there's a white circle, but are we on a stick and they're not telling us? Are we flat and they're not telling us? So, and no, don't get that going. I didn't say anything that we were flat earthers, but because look, it's a big, look, you can even spin it. It's a big, beautiful, perfect round globe. There you go. So, and you can even see the star movement in the background as you move the big, beautiful round, should we call it blue, globe around. So there you go. That's the cloud cover for today. You can see much of the northeast up towards Maine. That area is dealing with some heavy cloud cover. But if you're interested in watching for the aurora tonight, the space glow, the northern lights, it will extend down, and it looks like we may have some good viewing weather for the parts of the country that can see it. We'll show that here in just a second. So, in fact, it may be. Nope. Got ahead of myself. This is, I'm just going to recap this briefly. This is from the National Weather Service. This is their daily briefing to the public. And it's pretty much telling us the exact same thing we talked about with the snow up in the Great Plains. The higher elevations, of course, seeing significant snow. And then down in the southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Texas, stretching up to Oklahoma, the possible fire potential. In the middle of the country is chance of some rain. but nothing significant aside for the heavy snows. Tomorrow it does change a little bit, and we're going to be looking at parts of the Midwest, especially up there, Chris, where you are, getting some severe thunderstorms. And then on Friday, that will extend pretty much from Michigan to Texas in a northeasterly fashion from Texas, and it will continue to spread across the country. That is your national weather forecast for today. And what is Aurora Borealis? There are two R's in that. It's Aurora Borealis. Okay, Chris, I'm not a bright man. So speaking of, NOAA does provide us with a space map or a space forecast. And this is talking about the probability of aurora. I learned to talk one of these days. And you see, their map for us doesn't have it extending as far south. And this is a loop. It's a satellite loop of projected. It doesn't have it going as far south as initially thought for the United States. So, but we see that there is the potential for it to affect the areas of Russia, Asia, and the Middle East. If you see when it grows to the reddest, when the the sun's rays cause a storm and they come down on us and disturb everything. But so that is the aurora forecast, and they've changed it. It was going to be as far down almost to the Tennessee line, but they've changed that. I guess the timing, so that means it'll be worse over in, well, not worse, is it worse or better in the Middle East, in Asia regions of the world. So, but if you look here, and if you're listening on Radio X and on Jurg's radio, what we're showing is from the NOAA, National Oceanic Atmosphere, Air and Atmosphere, good Lord, their forecast for the next 24 hours for aurora. So I'll learn to speak one of these days. My high school wasn't very good at it. But yeah, you can see this is just a loop of what their projection of the probability of it being. So, all right, we'll move on to our next thing here. And this is our current weather map. And we, once again, the blue dots are earthquakes. And we'll get into that here in a minute, because I know Wendell likes to talk about the ground shaking. If you look at California, good Lord, there's been a lot of shaking going on out in the West. But currently, we're looking at the severe winter weather. It's not made its way completely as south as it's going to, but it's going to be coming out of Canada, stretching all the way down through parts of Montana. So that's where, and Colorado. So that's where they're worried about the most significant part. There's a little bit of rainfall up in the northeast. It's not snow, at least. And we see the possibility for some wind. And somebody messaged me and asked if Tennessee has always been this windy. And I don't know the answer to that. But it does seem like it's windier this year than it has been in past years. So if you've noticed a difference in the area you live, put it in the comments here. I'd like to know, because somebody did message me and ask about that. And I was like, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. It's been very windy. But I don't know if it's more windy than usual. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know. All right. So we will talk about our friends down under, since we spent so much time talking about us. And we see that, we have missed. There's a tropical low coming in, going to be affecting Broome. So you're going to have to worry about some heavy rains and some wind there. And there's some, pretty much from the Northern Territories through South Australia, there's some light cloud cover and rain. But nothing heavy except for over in Broome. Down in Perth and a little bit northeast of Perth, you'll have some significant rain, but nothing heavy like they were worried about over in Queensland. In fact, the precipitation is really only going to be called for light. But Broome, it will be coming in more significantly. If you look at the winds, that little tropical cyclone, I have to look that one's name up. Errol. All right, tropical cyclone Errol is still centered a little bit to the northwest of Broome and projected to continue its path before it makes a sharp turn south right above Broome. But we look at the wind there, it is really pretty strong around it. Otherwise, there's a depression down off of the coast of New South Wales that hasn't been called a cyclone yet, but it's trying. It wants to. So there you go. Let's see. We'll look at temperatures, and once again, these are in Fahrenheit. I apologize, but it's going to be a high of 84 in Broome, pretty much Western Australia, the northwest segment. It's going to be kind of warm, except down in Perth. You're going to be in the high 70s. Middle of the country, it's going to be in the 60s. And on the western coast, it's going to be in the 70s. Except for down in Melbourne, it'll be maybe around 55. So, but as we all know, it's going to feel worse. It's going to feel like it's in the 90s up on the northwest coast. So yeah. I don't know what your beaches are like there, but yeah, it's going to be warm, but pretty much mild throughout the rest of the country. High 70s, maybe up around Cairns. So humidity, it's going to be sticky over on the coastlines, of course. Everybody knows that. So, all right. Well, we will just continue and zoom out. And that is a tropical cyclone Errol. So he's got 160 mile an hour winds, and he's considered a Cat 5 at this time. So, all right. And then there is over the Indian Ocean. It doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere or do much, but we always want to keep an eye on it. They're calling it Invest 99S. Don't know what that means, but that's what they're calling it to keep an eye on in the Indian Ocean. We'll zoom over to us here. Wendell says April showers bring Mayflowers. That's true. And they also, isn't Mayflowers do the winds for the Mayflies for trout fishing? Isn't that, I remember something about that. March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb, and vice versa. True. And Denise says March winds, April showers. It's a little behind. Yeah, I agree. So, all right. We don't see anything for us as far as hurricanes in the Atlantic or the Pacific, which is always good news. That's our live, and we'll show the radar real quick. And as we discussed, just the light snowfall in Canada and extending down slightly into Montana, but it's going to continue across, and then some snowfall up into Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec. Doesn't really look like it's going to affect us too much here. There may be some rain over in parts of Maine, New Hampshire. Let's see. Precipitation, nothing really significant for the Northeast. Midwest, central parts of the country is going to be pretty dry. It's the snow they're worried about. And of course, the wind we'll cover here in just a minute, a little bit more in depth. But it looks like that little front is trying to push its way down, pretty much headed towards Billings, and it's going to hit Rapid Cities and try and spin around later this week, where it's going to meet up with the front coming up out of the Gulf of America, and that's where we're going to get those storms later this week. Right now, temperatures, well, depending on where you're at, if you're down in the Keys, it's in the 80s, but if you're in Seattle, it's in the 50s. Over in the Northeast area, up in Vermont, it's right now 31 degrees. Can you believe that? And Boston is 45. New York is 43. DC, you're 55. Charlotte, 66. Atlanta, 64. Montgomery, 67. Chris, up by you, it's 43 in Chicago. And as we extend our way northward, or westward, good Lord, it gets a little bit warmer through the middle part of the country. Down in Texas, it's going to be another warm day in the 80s. And over in Las Vegas and Arizona, it's going to be in the high 70s, low 80s. So, and the coastline of California are going to be pretty mild, 50s to 70s. So, Medford, Oregon, 59. So, all right, there's the temperatures. And let's see what it feels like. Well, it's going to feel pretty much the same as it is because the humidity isn't that great today in the country. With the exception of maybe up in Maine, it'll feel a little bit chillier than it actually is. So, yeah, I got it. I'm there. I'm with you. So, and as we talked about, there's not a great deal of humidity. That's why your feels like, except for in Texas. And of course, your coastlines on the west where the winds are coming in. It really isn't that high. And that is also why we're concerned with the winds coming off of the Pacific down through Mexico, and that low humidity brings the chance for significant fire weather. So, all right, there's that. I'm giving my weather forecast. We look at the rains. I always skipped Alaska. We were talking about this on Ross's show, talking about the states and how when I grew up, I was pretty sure they taught us there was 52 of them. I'm still looking for a few of them. So, But I always forget about Alaska. Looks like there's some rain off of your southern coast there to keep an eye on today. And but that's about it for Alaska. I always forget about them. Why do I forget about Alaska? It's a state I never have been to. I've never flown there. I want to go there. Actually, I wouldn't mind driving there. That'd be kind of cool. Get my passport and go through. We'll go over here to weather warning. And if you remember correctly, weather warning, I don't endorse the site, but I do use a lot of their data. It's a great site. If you want to go to wxwarn.affirmtech.com, just be prepared. It's going to fill your speakers and your screen with a lot of data the first time. We look up, Chris, what's the first thing we see here? Montgomery County, Maryland, right there where Andy is in Gaithersburg. He's doing a test message again. Don't understand it. Andy is sending out his messages. So we're looking at over in Alaska, they're having a winter storm warning for the islands off of Alaska. And then we go down into Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. There's a possibility in the higher elevations for frost tonight. Wow, check that out. Pretty much south of Charleston, all the way up almost to was that Perry, Ohio? Wow. All right. So there's a frost advisory tonight if you're in those areas of Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. And wind advisory, of course, that's also for West Virginia, where they're concerned about these storms. And if you notice, a lot of these wind advisories, they are extending through the valleys of a lot of the mountains of the Appalachia. So if you see on the map there, it looks like it's on the southwest side of the mountains. Flood advisory in Middle Tennessee. So they're concerned that there's could be some weather, but the possibility of the rain still coming south is a real issue. Oklahoma, parts of your area have red flag warnings. That means that pretty much the conditions are favorable for heavy fire, so do not have any open flames. Let's see. Denise says, don't plant until after Mother's Day. Yeah, you know, I heard that from somebody. My wife didn't follow that warning, though, so she planted some things. Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, in the higher elevations, they're worried about some frost. Pretty much middle part of the country up in the higher elevations. Winds. KG says 55-mile-an-hour winds last night, but only 35 today in rural Virginia. Well, that's good. Hopefully, we'll look at that in a minute and see if there's been any significant power outages. We'll see a lot of these flood warnings. These are going to be extending southward as we go because of the heavy rains that were up in the north, in the northeast, and the middle section of the Ohio Valley that had so much rain. It's all going to be extending southward over the next couple weeks. So there's potential for floods. And of course, if you're in Maine, in the higher elevations where it has snowed so much, there's going to be mud season, which is always a fun season. I understand they have a mud season in in Colorado and Alaska as well. And that's caused by all the snow melting and coming down off of the mountaintops. And it causes mud. They have a mud season. I can't imagine a mud season. I've seen it. I didn't like it, but I saw it in Vermont. All right, so there's your warnings. But like I said, have a weather radio with you so you can keep up with things. And you can always go to WX Warn and check out them for the most latest things. I'm going to refresh this because this is a little old. This is our current wind map for the United States. It's not our beloved map, but Wendell says, mud season, let the wrestling begin. Hey, interestingly enough, Wendell, tonight we will be having on the, this is a good chance to do a plug, Wendell. Tonight on the Pair Are Normal Guys, you can find us over here on YouTube, and it's also replayed on WRFN and Pine Island FM, and where else? Bigfoot Radio. The Pair Are Normal Guys. We will have a show tonight that has a great person from Australia. It's the Australian psychic. He's going to be on, and I think he said in his time it's like Thursday at 11 a.m. I think that's correct. You can check it out by going over to YouTube and watching us. Mark Anthony is the uh, rogue hypnotist. He's very famous in Australia. He's a regular and fan of our show. And he asked me the other day if he could come back on. I was like, come on, we're ready. We want you. So he's going to be on. And then leading to my segue, Wendell, we're going to have a wrestler from Chicago that's kind of famous too. So you might want to check that out. So we're got a good show scheduled for the Paranormal guys. We're back. We took last week off because of the issues I was explaining earlier, but we're back. So that's tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can follow us on YouTube and see the show. We'll be live for 2 hours. Of course, if you can't watch it live, you can always come over and watch us on replay. All right, so the current wind map. We look here. Look at that little front going from the northeast, extending all the way down into the pretty much mid-south. There's really not that much significant air, but coming off the Great Lakes, pushing over to the Atlantic, we see that's going all the way down into Florida. So that little front there is trying to push everything away. Well, that trough is pulling everything up from the Gulf of America pretty much to Canada, where it's trying to meet with that front and the Canadian front that's causing the winter storms. It's going to be pushing down into Midwest, Central Plains, and extending to the southeast. So I missed the wind map. Well, you will get the big wind map here in a second. Chris says, I missed the wind map, but I was surprised the long for the map for some reason focuses on Columbus, Ohio. It is what it is. You can't, I don't understand it. See Columbus, see right there. Look at right there. It's currently got 10.9 mile an hour winds. I don't know. There's something going on in Columbus. All right. We look at, this is the lightning map. And I pull this up just to show there's no significant storms pretty much anywhere in the country. You have some little cells. These out here where you see these little bolts, these are actually created by the low humidity and the static in the air. And it's basically friction lightning. And that's also in the areas where they're concerned with the fire warnings. And wonder if that has anything to do that they're also near a test range. Interesting. But those are areas that you see just little significant ones here and there that are kind of powerful, and they're not identified with any storms. But the heaviest lightning is off the coast. Not even Bermuda has got any heavy lightning. It's all out into the Atlantic and maybe a little bit down around the Turks and Caicos. Let's look down under and see if you have any significant lightning. Well, yes, you do. It looks as though pretty much northeast of Perth. And I'm so sorry to my Australian listeners. I'm not that great on names, but it looks like Calgary westward is having a little bit of lightning activity. And that's going to extend all the way over to the coastline. So that little front there, Cataby, it's going to come across pretty much Cataby, Milling, and then extend down into Binkubin, and pretty much gains intensity there across the Mount Manning Range Park over towards Calgary. And I know I'm probably doing that wrong. Chris says, must be an Ohio State fan making the map. It could be. I didn't think of that. Didn't think of that. Wonder why. That's why Tennessee's never on the maps. Huh. All right. Well, and if you follow any sports news, yes, Tennessee's starting quarterback, he not only lost his job, he lost his income, and he lost a family member. Yeah. So hopefully the young man learned a valuable lesson from that. No team wants him right now. He is toxic. So, yeah. All right. So if we look here in parts of, what would this be? Europe, there's some heavy storms up in Germany and Frankfurt, France a little bit, and down around Italy and Italy, I'm sorry. And what is this? This is out into the Greek islands, I guess. A little bit of heavy lightning, but nothing significant otherwise. All right, so let's go to our next one here. And this is, let me refresh this because we were talking about the winds, see if it's changed. And I was following some stories out of Michigan talking about they were having problems getting their power back on, and that's not really being shown here on the power outage map. And you can go to poweroutage.us and see where the trouble spots are. The only one currently now is Pennsylvania, and it's showing that 12,055 people are without power. But they were saying in Michigan they were having problem restoring power due to the fact that there were so many poles that were snapped. So it's going to take them a while, but it looks like they're at least back now to where they're under 10,000. So that's good news. And I expect that Pennsylvania will probably clear up in a little bit, and we'll look for tomorrow. This will probably be more in the middle of the country where they're having problems with power outages. And we go from there to our air quality map. And, well, Wendell, air sucks in Alabama right now. It's not as bad, though, as it is over in the Great Plains, especially around Lincoln and Hastings down into Salina. It's got some poor air conditions. Chris, where you are, it's not too bad. You might be, depending on what part there south of Springfield, there's a little bit. Right now, what we need to be worried about is those allergies. Goodness, those allergies right now. I'll show you that map in a minute. Even though I don't believe it, I think it's lying. But that is the interactive map of air quality. I'll show you in a minute how this corresponds with the smoke map. You'll see that a lot of that area is poor air quality because of smoke from the fires. But it's also due to other factors such as pollution. Dust storms, believe it or not, in the Midwest can also cause a problem. So I need to see if there's a dust storm tracker. All right, for those of us that are listening on Radio X in Australia and YurgsRadio.com and, of course, Rainbow Radio, this is the time where we pull out the big, round, beautiful, perfect blue globe and show the wind map for the world. And if you haven't seen this, you need to get a 50-inch plasma screen TV and put on some new age music and just stare into this, and your world will be a much better place for it. It is an AI generated wind map that shows the current wind maps on the big blue perfect globe. I can't think of enough words to say there, Chris, so you need to help me out. As we talked about, spinning up off of the Great Lakes, extending out into the mid-Atlantic, we see the winds are higher there. And out of the Gulf of America, it's kind of a little front pulling down off the Florida coastline, extending back over to Texas, and it's pushing that air all the way up to our friends in the north. They're our friends, even though we're going to take their shit. I'm talking about Canada. Of course, I'm being funny. I'm making a joke. We're not going to come take your shit. I don't think. I don't know. Yeah. And we see up off the coast of Alaska on the southwest side of Alaska, you see that strong winds there associated with that front off of there, and probably that winter storm out over the islands. We'll go down under and look at the winds. We showed them earlier, but this is a much better representation. We see that the cyclone spinning off to the southeast, northeast, northwest. One down in the southeast is really, it's not any formed storm, but it's still circulating pretty heavily there, and as well as Earl off the coastline. But pretty much across Canada, it's going to be a light wind-free day, maybe some mild winds around Perth, but otherwise it looks like it's going to be a non-significant day for wind for you. Chris, we'll see. Is Columbus got anything going on the wind map? No, it doesn't look like it today, Chris. Ohio State. Did anybody see the United States Vice President J.D. Vance? He was holding the NCAA football trophy for the Ohio State team, visited the White House, and he fumbled it. A lot of people are making fun of it, but it is actually designed to be two pieces. It's a walnut base where the trophy actually sits into it. If you look at the picture, it doesn't look like it, but it is two pieces, and he fumbled it. Luckily, somebody caught it, and there was no harm done to the trophy, but it was kind of a goofy moment for, and those are the moments I like. I don't like talking about all the politics stuff about he did this, he did that. Those are the moments I like better, where he showed they're human. He dropped the trophy. But you can't say too much, because even some of the coaches have done that. So during the live ceremony presentation. So yeah. And JD Vance is an Ohio State fan, by the way, Chris. He did graduate from Ohio State. And I didn't realize this, but he hasn't been graduated. He hasn't graduated that long ago. So I think it was what, 2005, maybe? I guess that's 20 years, but man, just doesn't seem like it. All right, so we're looking here at the fire map. We're going to pull up NASA's because it's a little bit better as far as showing live activity. But we see we still have fires over in the Carolinas. We have Rattlesnake Branch, we have Big Ridge, and what is the other one there? Table Rock. We see all those fires that are pretty well, well, that one's only 26%. Big Ridge is about 88, and Rattlesnake is only at 26. So, and I'm sorry, Table Rock is 97%, but they're still working on getting them extinguished. Out in the west, we see several fires that are 100% contained. That's why I like the NASA map, because it's a better graph showing of what's going on. And this one in Texas, it's a prescribed burn. Somebody see, this also shows the prescribed burns and doesn't really say that much about their damage. But these are the fire maps. You can see that in the Rocky Mountains on the southwest side, there are some fires. And then down along in the higher elevations in Colorado, there are some fires. South Dakota, some fire activity there. But what we're concerned about today is Arizona, New Mexico, a little bit of Oklahoma there, and Texas for that dry wind condition, dry humidity, low wind conditions. So, all right, so we have here, this is the NASA map that I like, and it shows pretty much real time what's going on. And we can see that, okay, let me explain this for those of you that might be new here. The little red dots, these signify either someone has called and reported a fire, or the satellites in space have picked up a fire. Does not necessarily represent a fire, but it is worth investigating. Of course, the larger they are, the more people or the more sightings the satellite has had. That's why I like this map, because it breaks it down pretty well. And then you can see these are the ones that are, well, these are the ones growing, like out of Mississippi here. It's only, what is this? Winston Highway fire. It is 0% contained, and it's 150 acres. So you get an idea of the growth of them. And sometimes you can even look and like zoom in, you'll see even like in cities, you'll see like down around metro Atlanta, you'll see these little red dots, but they could be small brush fires. They could even be fires along the interstate that they have just picked up on, or it could be a large structure fire, like I'm sure this is probably Big Ridge, if I had to guess, in Knoxville. There's been some fires up on Big Ridge. Big Ridge is where the antennas are for most of the, we'll call it most of Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee, up into Kentucky, but that's where the antennas are on that ridge. Sharps Ridge, it's a little bit off with the dot, but there's been some fires up there on Sharps Ridge, Big Ridge, I'm sorry, also. But yeah, you'll see where they call for dots, but it might not be a huge fire. But there has been a fire on Sharps Ridge. If anybody's listening from East Tennessee, as I understand it, KFD had it under control. The areas where they're mostly concerned here, highlighted in pink, extend from down along the Mexican border over to Phoenix and down into Texas, extending all the way up into Kansas. But that whole area right there, they're really concerned about. And we do have one fire that's 2,270 acres burning at this time, and it is not contained. And that is in, where is that? And that is in Colorado. So I always wonder why these, well, I need to look this up. Why are all these counties square? Have you ever noticed that when you look at a county map, when you get out west of the Mississippi, the counties are square. Whereas if you look at, like us here in the South, we got, well, does it show it? No. Well, wood on the other. We got a regular shaped county, though. I guess it's because they annex so many places. All right. And this is the smoke map that we were talking about. I was going to talk about the air quality. Look here. We see some of the worst air quality is centered around some of these fires. Remember, some of these are also prescribed burns. And if you remember how we talked about this little valley here in the in the east side of the Mississippi, is where that little dry area, that wind is pushing the smoke out, and it's pushing it all down into the Gulf of America. covering part of Texas, but the really worst areas for smoke today are in areas like Topeka, Wichita, Tulsa. That area is the absolute worst today for smoke conditions. A little bit in the southeast, we see it out around Charlotte, but nowhere near as bad. Macon, south of Macon, extending over to Savannah. And once again, all these storms that that smoke is being pushed to the southeast because of that front, and it's covering the Gulf of America pretty well. It's actually extending down to Havana and points south of that. So smoke is being pushed down there. That is our smoke map for the day. And I forgot to mention at the top of the hour, you're listening to Radio X in Australia, Yerg's Radio, and Rainbow Radio. You are listening to the Sportcat Daily Gazette, where we talk about why you didn't die today. If you listen to some of the popular YouTubers that are preppers, we talk about, emergency codes have been activated, the world's going to end. Well, the adults are in charge, and we're going to tell you what's really going on. We're not going to talk a lot of hyperbole or clickbait. So, all right, so this is brought to us by the Weather Channel, and I don't know that I agree with this map. Is it just me? And put it in the comments if you agree. Allergy season this season has been worse than it has in seasons past. And maybe it is just me, but this allergy season has kicked my butt. And we can see that it pretty much covers all of Virginia and South Carolina, extends all of Tennessee, most of Kentucky, extends over to all of Oklahoma, down into parts of Texas and Mexico. Pretty much the middle part of the country is horrible right now with tree pollen. Don't know if I agree with it. I think it should be larger than that, but that's what they give us. The grass pollen map is pretty much the same, showing though that is pushed further to the south. Don't know that I agree with that because it's just been miserable. So that is your allergy map. And let's see, your breathing map. We'll look at that real quick. We're going to talk about pretty much most of the country except for that area where the poor air quality was over in the Midwest is going to be a problem. And let's see, this is also where we have the, maybe it isn't. We had the aches and pains map. Let's see what the aches and pains map is. Yeah. No thanks. Aches and pains map. Here we go. Don't know that I agree with this, but the worst pains right now are the tip of Texas, the upper part of Texas, most of Oklahoma, up into Colorado, and it circulates up into the north from there. Pretty much, the middle part of the country, you're going to have some aches and pains today through tonight or tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Whew. All right, so there's your aches and pains map if you're into that thing. Wendell says Kentucky has been hit hard this year. Yes, they have. And like we said, and I'd like to bring up some charts showing this to be true, but Tornado Alley is extending more to the northeast than it normally has. All right, so we haven't talked about this in a couple days. The media has kind of stirred this up a bit, and they've also stirred up that, the Department of Health and Human Services director says that you shouldn't get vaccines, even though he's said that he doesn't believe that the government should mandate vaccines. He is not telling you not to get it. He's telling you to be medically informed. He doesn't believe the government should say you have to have a shot. That's his belief. But currently, they're saying that measles are on the rise in the United States. Currently, we have 712 cases, with the majority of those being from children aged 5 to 19, 274. The next percentage you see drop down is under 5. And then if you're 20 and greater, there's only 28% of the people. And they like to break this down, unvaccinated or unknown, 97%. So currently it is 11% of the reason there's hospitalization in the United States. And that is because the majority of those being the younger, 19 and under. There have been 3 deaths. 2 have been confirmed. 1 is still under investigation. And so that is your measles. They said this is, what is the date on this? I looked at this earlier. I think it was April 10th. This was updated April 10th, and there's 712 cases in the United States currently. We'll go down here and look at, I think this has a map where the states are most impacted. Texas, 250. New Mexico, you've got several, 50 to 100. Kansas, you've got some. Georgia had, I think, only one. Tennessee has one in Nashville. Kentucky has a few, and Ohio has a few. It's extended out into Washington, California, and Alaska. Some of these are just cases reported by people traveling that have passed through that have caused people to get injured. But what is that? Rhode Island, it has 1 to 10 cases. New York, 1 to 10. Pennsylvania, 1 to 10. The city of New York, 1 to 10. It's kind of surprising with so many people packed together. Maryland, 1 to 10. So up in Michigan, you're lessening. Last time we looked at this issue, you had quite a few. All right, so let's see here. They're saying that this year that is going to spike, but we see in 2019 there was almost 1,300 cases. So I don't know that it's quite the pandemic they're trying to make it out to be, but even though it is up to you to get your vaccination is not mandated, we can see here that parts of the country that are less than 90%. And even though I like to make fun of us in the South, we're not the only places. Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Minnesota, Iowa, these are all places that are less than 90%. Of course, Florida and Georgia, less than 90%. Up in New Hampshire, that's surprising. Less than 90% vaccinated. And that is as of April 10th. And they're still compiling data, and I'm sure that's going to change. I'm sure there's going to be more cases reported. So, all right. So we're going to look here. We have to talk about the C19 bug. Currently, right now, the most strongest cases are Virginia, Kentucky, the Carolinas are the most heavy hit areas with the C virus. But there's a concern pretty much throughout most of the country, with only one report or one state not reporting as North Dakota. The flu, doesn't surprise me, is worse down in Louisiana because of the heat in this time of year. And we also see that up around the areas of the United States where it's colder in New York and Vermont, Michigan, you also have a lot of flu to worry with. Wendell says, is the people with the measles illegal immigrants? No, that's something mainstream media has stirred up, Wendell. Most people that where the measles outbreak started at the Four Corners area of the country was due to religious communities that didn't believe in vaccinations. They didn't believe in medical care. They waited until the child was so sick to present them to doctors. That's where it started. A lot of people are trying to say it's because of the illegal immigrants. No, I'm sure that they didn't help, but they were not the causation for the outbreaks in the United States. The one on the West Coast was by a traveler coming into the country from places unknown, bringing in the measles to California, Washington, and then up into New York. Believe it or not, they probably have a higher vaccine rate because they have free health care than a lot of the poor children of the Appalachia and the South. I'll just leave my comment at that. All right, so RSV stands for respiratory viruses. They get all this data from our poo. I just our government watches our poo. They videotape our trash being taken out. You're on camera no matter where you go. It seems like they're watching us from every angle, including the air. I'll show you that in a bit. But yeah, so RSV right now, currently the worst cases are in Missouri and South Dakota, but you're not completely out of the woods throughout the country. There are other parts of the country that are on the rise, but those are the worst areas now for the RSV virus. And you should also if you are sick, don't wait to go to the doctor until you're too sick. As a medical professional, I can tell you, especially the elderly and the young, they wait till the last minute to take the young, and the young will look and present healthy up until when they're not. That's because of the way their system is built. And the elderly, they wait because they don't want to be a bother. If you feel sick, go to the doctor. We can prevent a lot of these outbreaks just by simple primary health care. But the areas right now with the worst respiratory problems are Wisconsin and New Hampshire. And this is, I believe, data as of April 10th, if I remember, April 11th. So there you go. That is your updates on that. Right now, ER visits aren't as high as they have been in the past, but they are slightly elevated for the flu. And epidemic trends. And this is growing out of California. They say it's likely growing. And then they talk about parts of the Ohio plains down into the mid-Atlantic that is declining. And then in the South, it is also declining. This is for the C19 bug. Just keep an eye on it. We're almost out of that season. So, and we talked about the flu. Everywhere is pretty much declining except for some parts of California, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and Carolinas. All right, so we'll move on from this one. All right, I bring this up because I haven't brought it up in a bit, but this is just our worldwide conflict zone, and it shows us what's going on in the world as far as conflict. And I'm just showing this briefly because we haven't had it up in a bit. Lebanon, that's a new one. I hadn't noticed that one since we were last paying attention. And they're saying it's a risk level 1, do not fly there. And that's probably because of wars. So they're saying that Israel has launched ground operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon. So that's a conflict area that wasn't up the last time we talked. A lot of these are not new. We've seen them in the past. I'm trying to pull up here and see if there's anything new since we were last on, but that is the most recent one that's popped up since we last visited. I don't view this one very often, but I try and keep an eye on it for us. April 14th in Colombia, and I remember April 14th to them was yesterday or tomorrow. I don't know. Armed robbery. Several men breached the perimeter and opened fire in a security truck transporting cash to a waiting jet. I wonder why cash is going to a jet. They managed to escape, but at least 2 have been arrested. The airport was closed for 2 hours. The U.S. Department of State continues to advise against travel to Colombia due to the risk of violent crime. So let's see. Mongolia. There was another mortar attack inside the airport in April 6th. That's since we last visited. And let's see. Helicopter was hit by small arms fire in Haiti. And that's not uncommon down there. And we're just getting into kind of the older stuff here. In Lebanon, the UK has upgraded its airspace warning. It now recommends that operations do not enter any level due to ongoing activity in Lebanon. Taiwan, China is carrying out more. We can talk about that here in a bit. More military drills as they surround the island. And then, of course, we get back into other parts of the South Sudan. There's been problems with rebels shooting up at aircraft. So, of course, we know about Israel and all that fun stuff going on in the Mideast. All right, Wendell, here is your favorite map. This is current earthquakes. I bring up and highlight the United States first, but the most recent one has been a volcano off of Hawaii. It's been the most recent one, a 2.6. A 5.4 was reported over in the Kermadec Islands off of the coast of Australia. I have not seen a tsunami alert, but it was a 5.4. They had a 5.3 prior to that. And we go back to the U.S. and we start talking about the ones out in California and Alaska were the most recent ones. The biggest one in Alaska was 4.1. Let's scroll down. 5.6. This was in the mid-Atlantic. I have not seen a tsunami alert come for that one either. So let's see. I had a 5.0 in Tonga, 4.7 in Pagadian, Pandikuan. Chris, help me out with that one. 5.2 off of the coast of Alaska. When I say Alaska, that's the islands that merge with the Russia continent. That are pretty close to it. So there is your most recent earthquake map for you, Wendell. The most recent one being volcanic earthquake activity of a 2.6 in Hawaii. So, all right. I know Wendell likes that map. All right, so this one is going to take us a bit to get through because we are behind a few days. So we'll talk about it real quick. India, 4 students have been attacked by honeybees. So there's a biological outbreak there where they're concerned about that. They're also concerned about bears. So in India, in parts of Asia, don't mess with Mother Nature because the bees and the bears are going to get you. The United States has said multiple raccoons in southern Colorado tested positive for the deadly disease that can spread to your dog. Which disease is it? I didn't think raccoons could get rabies. Make positive deadly disease that spread to your dogs. Multiple raccoons with deadly contagious disease reported in southern Colorado. For my friend, be careful of raccoons there. Have died from canine distemper. Okay, so they're giving distemper to the dogs. Okay, if I remember correctly, distemper can be transferred to cats as well. And if a raccoon drinks, a lot of people will leave water out for cats during the summer. But the problem is the raccoons and the foxes will come and drink out of that unknowingly. And distemper can be transferred in that bowl of water to the other animals. So I didn't see anything in Yellowstone, Wendell. If you got something new, let me know. But I didn't see. The most recent one I saw was in the volcanic activity in Hawaii. So yeah, there you go. It's an animal epidemic concerning Colorado, southern Colorado specifically, worrying about distemper from raccoons. Interesting. Did not know that. But so keep an eye out if you're in Colorado for raccoons that have distemper. Now imagine if they bite you, you can get distempered as well. Let's see. That's not new. I'm only going to try and cover the new stuff. Nigeria death toll hits 127 due to an infection. Latvia. They have now had 60 patients from E. coli. What is the death toll in Nigeria from? Let's look at it real quick since it's new. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control has declared 127 lives across 18 states due to an epidemic. They got a bug. But what kind of infection is it? 4,000 between. Do they name? They say it's a biological infectious disease with multiple states in Nigeria. But they don't have a name for it, do they? I don't see a name for this. Once again, they're talking about the problem is that people are presenting late to the hospitals or for healthcare treatment, causing it to grow. So yeah, they're recommending a rapid response teams be deployed, which is always a good idea to get out into the community when you can. Here in the States, we call it community paramedicine. It's fairly new idea to the United States. Early symptoms are fever, malaise, which means you don't feel well, unexplained bleeding. If you have that, go to the nearest health facility. Okay, but they don't have a name for it necessarily. And they're saying that's in Nigeria. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. I don't see a name for it. It's a viral hemorrhagic, meaning you bleed a lot, disease. It's transmitted primarily through the contact with urine or feces of infected rats. All right, so get your pest control updated and keep those critters away from you. All right, so critical infrastructure, nothing new there. This United States, China admits directly attacking the United States in the infrastructure. So China has admitted this, but we've seen this, and we'll see this again today if you hang tight with us here. China is admitted to it. Well, wonder what we'll do in retaliation. All right, so local security conflicts. Nigeria, 13 killed. 15 houses were burnt in an attack in Nigeria. Yemen, the Houthis, that's a continual thing with us and the Houthis in Israel. So that's nothing new. Sudan, heavy gunfire has broken out in the capital. And what do we have here? Armenia fires at a village in its cultural. So it sounds like their own military did that. In Armenia, in Asia, the Congo, they're still worried about the different diseases down there. Mass displacement or migration, Mediterranean Sea, the Eastern Basin, 4 Pakistans, 11 dead as a migrant boat capsizes off the Libya coast. It's always sad to report when people are trying to escape one situation that's bad and they end up in a worse situation. In Greece, 2 women have found dead with 30 migrants located on a Greek island. That's interesting because there are several islands off of Greece that have no one on them. There's no population. I believe one of them that I saw was called Zeus Island, if I remember correctly. And there's nobody living on it except for the wildlife. Public safety incidents. We'll go over this a little bit more. We have this United States shots fired after a vehicle crash into a building. That must be breaking news. I haven't seen that. Police are in custody. Yesterday and today, teen boy shot near Calumet High, Texas, near high school after classes let out. Calumet Heights. I don't know. I'm sorry. I said Texas, but I don't know that to be a fact. Let's see what area that is. United States teen boy shot in Calumet Heights High School after classes let out. And witnesses said students were fighting in a park across from the campus. Multiple rounds of gunfire. 17-year-old was shot. This is in Chicago on the east side. And how do these kids get guns? How do they have guns? I'm not going to say that I'm don't support the Second Amendment because I do, but how do these kids get guns? Obviously, they didn't get them legally. So I'll leave that argument for another day. Let's see. Where were we? Sweden, 2 killed in a shooting. In Europe, South Africa, 1 student killed, 3 injured in a university protest. France, several prisons have been targeted with waves of arson attack. That's a growing concern across the world, is arson attacks. In fact, I saw one report talking about how the Molotov cocktails are basically coming back in style from the 70s. Everything's new again. Let's see. South Africa, student killed. We just talked about that. Prisons being targeted. 2 killed, 9 injured in Arkansas in a shooting at a city park. United States, 1 dead, 6 hurt. Northeast Harris County gas station where 100 people had gathered. Interesting. A man was fatally stabbed in a Berlin metro station. The attacker was shot by police. All right, there you go. Gun beats knife. Just remember that if you believe in the Second Amendment rights. Hungary, marathon protests against restrictions, right to assembly. And Budapest is an issue right now with serial demonstrations. UK, army planners sent in to help clear out Birmingham's rubbish pile. We talked about that a long time ago. They had been on strike from taking in trash. So it looks like UK is sending the military to help clean it up. All right. Terrorism, Pakistan, shocker, blast kills 3 officers. That's new. Afghanistan, blast outside a mosque. It's a shame because nobody deserves that, no matter what religion you are. Let's see. War. War. Israel, Ukraine, Middle East. It's one of those things. Explosion, 3 injured in a gas explosion in Israel. 6 injured in a U.S. Texas house explosion. Ooh, let's look at that one real quick. That one was 2 days ago, but we'll look at it real quick. 6 people were injured, 24 homes damaged after 2-story house exploded on Sunday in Austin. And firefighters arrived in the neighborhood. They found a house was leveled due to neighboring houses suffered severe collapse damage, according to the chief. Among the injured, 2 were critical. 2 firefighters treated for minor injuries. And blast remains unknown. The neighborhood lacks. Okay, interesting. All right, so if you're in Texas, pay attention to this or remind me, we need to keep following this because this is an interesting thing. 2 people were critical. 2 firefighters were treated on scene. Austin, Travis County. The cause of the blast remains unknown. And this is key information here. The neighborhood lacks underground gas lines. New constructed did have propane. So what caused the explosion? Keep an eye on that one. Because I don't know what part of Texas that is, but they're also building the cities for certain religions and ethnicities only. I don't know what part of Texas that is. So keep an eye on that. That's interesting. Let's see. India, massive fire outbreak. Canada, 2 injured in an industrial facility. We talked about that. Large fire in Joliet area near I-55. I think we talked about that one in our brush fire segment. 5 killed in Poland at a hostel. And in the UAB, 1 dead, 5 injured. Building fire, evacuated families waiting to return. In the UK, a car burst into flames at the Gatwick airport. And police say they're investigating the arson attack at the Pennsylvania governor's residence. Yeah, I followed that story, and I think that dude had some serious issues. And I don't believe, prior to what the media likes to report, I don't believe he liked either party. So, yeah. Wendell says Zeus Island has submarine tours. That is correct. We talked about outdoor fires, so we're going to skip this. But I mean, Ethiopia, Australia, Chad, Kazakhstan, Iraq, parts of Russia and Ethiopia. Geological, we talked about a lot of that. The earthquake 4.0, the last one was in Texas. I'm sorry, that is in California, in the U.S. Indonesia, South Atlantic. We talked about earthquakes, so we'll leave that alone pretty much. We did talk about Kilauea having problem here recently, and Spur volcano and Great Sitkin volcano. I believe all those are in Hawaii. Indonesia, Angola, Colombia, Congo, Spain, and Brazil are all experiencing some severe flooding. Our recovery of the only tsunami activity reported was, interestingly, okay, so this was reported on the 16th, which is today. I don't know if this is a universal coordinated time, but at 3:49, they had a tsunami warning off of the northern Pacific coast, Amchitka, Alaska. Breakdown. Let's see, 14-hour power outage is causing problems in Johannesburg, and building collapse in Nigeria. 3 people were killed. 2 rescued as a 3-story building collapsed in Lagos, Nigeria, and Dominican Republic. 79 dead, 155, and a roof collapse at the Dominican Republic nightclub. That was right before I took my break. Let's see. Germany, amid EU climate shift, cities face more flood and extreme heat. I think that's a hypothesis. I don't think that's anything more than that. And they did have a Coachella fireworks explosion of rogue fireworks during Green Day set reportedly injures crowd. Was that Texas? Where was that? I remember hearing something about that. Where was that? Was it Texas? No, it was California, Los Angeles. Attendees were stunned Saturday night when rogue fireworks misfired during Green Day set, flying into the crowd, setting the air by a palm tree on fire. It occurred as Green Day was wrapping up their headlining performance at the Coachella Valley Music Arts and Festival in California. Almost fireworks exploded harmlessly overhead. One veered off course, causing chaos among festive goers. Firework just exploded next to me, one was quoted as saying. One wrote on X that they can't hear out of their right ear. Multiple people were hurt. It was effing insane. I thought it was a terrorist attack. Well, goodness. All right, so that was in California during a Green Day concert. I hope that everybody's okay there. And we can talk about this ad nauseum. Plane incidents. Media keeps whipping this up that they're worse than ever, but I believe statistically they are not. I do not have that data in front of me, though. But the most recent being Pakistan, a small aircraft has crashed, no casualties. Australia, pilot dead after aircraft crashes into White Cliff. So that was in Australia. 25 hurt as a bus rams into a truck in India. Why did never mind. 1 dead, 4 rescued after boat overturns off Florida's coast. I haven't heard about that one. That one's relatively new. Coast Guard began searching. A Good Samaritan reported the U.S. Coast Guard. This is down off of Palm Beach area for a boat overturned. 1 person was found deceased. The boat capsized on Friday, according to Coast Guard. The officials reported the crews were still searching for the missing passenger. They also stated in a post on X that after a Good Samaritan reported the incident, took place 29 miles coast off of St. Lucie in Florida Martin County. All right. We wish them well, but if they're still looking at this point, it's not good. Cyclone, we talked about the one in the Indian Ocean and in the South Pacific Ocean. We talked about that. Droughts, we really won't go into that. Dust storms, Iraq is having some dust storms, leaving many people with breathing problems. Dust storms suck. Extreme rainfall in Kenya, Thailand, the Samoan Islands, places to be concerned about. Lightning, that was in Asia. We didn't really look at Asia for lightning, did we? I don't know what the deal is with persistent thick fog. Is that a new thing? Y'all let me know in the chat. And talking about severe weather with hailstorms being horrible in Asia, but I saw a news report out of Georgia that there was golf ball to baseball size hail in some of the storms. But that isn't really being reported here. All right, so we'll get off of that one real quick. Chris, this is, I'm sorry, Chris Wendell. This is the Global Disaster Alerts and Coordination System. This is showing us the most recent events. And we talked about offshore. There were some earthquakes. And then, of course, we talked about Tropical Storm Earl and TAM 25, flooding in Indonesia, Brazil, and Spain, volcanoes. It doesn't have it listed here, but we saw in Hawaii. And nothing really new there for us. So tomorrow we will have more news as far as things go because of I'm just playing catch up for where we've been gone. So this here is the disaster alert map. It's a very colorful map showing different disasters, what's going on. It could be anything from snow up in Montana to wildfires in Kansas, and then flooding in the southeast, and landslides up in Nova Scotia. Didn't know about that. And talk about the wildfire. Cuba is experiencing severe wildfire issues. I'm just going to kind of zoom around here. That's going to talk about the Hawaiian Islands, volcanic activity, and of course they have a drought. We'll go down to our friends down under and look around and see what we got. We are worried about Tropical Storm Earl because of where it's going to make its turn to the southwest, I guess that would be. But it's got a pretty good sized cone of uncertainty, so we'll keep an eye on that. A lot of areas are still being affected by flooding. We know that over in New South Wales that they just got hammered from the last cyclone. They're still recovering. Brisbane, Newcastle, and parts of Queensland. So they're still getting hammered. So we'll keep an eye on that. And let's see, the Southeast Indian Ridge, 17 hours ago, there was an earthquake. And I don't think, let's go look at that tsunami warning. That was up in Alaska. Let's see if they have that. Yes, they do. It was 15 hours ago due to a 5.2 earthquake off of the islands, pretty much right at the U.S.-Russia border in the islands up there in the extreme northwest. So, and I'm saying northwest as far as from my central location. Depending on where you're at, it's a different part. But there's the map of disaster alerts. Pretty big, bold, beautiful, colorful map. You can zoom around and look. They show everything from wars to volcanoes, earthquakes, mudslides, landslides, and of course, over the Middle East and then down into other parts of the world that's caused by other things. Lots of landslides in Thailand and earthquakes in Burma. So for my friends out there. All right, so we'll move on from that one. That was as of 1839 Universal Coordinated Time. And I don't have my clock up. I'm not at home. I'm still in Tennessee. So, all right, this is, I'm going to show two charts. This is the Sky Vector aeronautical map. It's going to show us where temporary flight restrictions are, where flight restrictions are. Okay, Wendell, I'll pull it up in just a minute. Where different events are ongoing. We look at this sometimes because we get some weird things will pop up. I guess up here in Alaska, a significant. Oh, this is significant meteorological. That's the weather storm. Okay, but we get some weird ones will pop up every now and then. For these are around Alaska for weird things, but you get. Oh, good lord! I didn't mean to make it that big. They'll issue NOTAMs sometimes for areas for things that we just don't understand. We can't figure out why until later. We find out, like this one was issued for temporary flight restriction because of space operations in Alaska. You don't think about that. All right, we go down here. Of course, we had the big one around DC that we always have. We have this one down here as a hazard for what part of the world is this? North Carolina. That's for the brush fires. And zoom out. The next map I'm going to show you is from the FAA. It's a little more significant. And I want you to pay attention to the Gulf of America. We'll see along the coastlines, Mobile, Pensacola, that area, they are restricting lower airspace for unmanned operation, and they're putting out NOTAMs down there. I want you to pay particular attention to the Gulf of America. We're going to see something down there in a few minutes. It's a little odd, so we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, that's the normal one up around Mar-a-Lago, where the president resides. And then, of course, they have it up off the coast for space operations of Florida. I don't know what this TFR is. Disney World, temporary flight restrictions. Okay, they've put up a temporary flight restriction on Disneyland from ground up to 3,000 feet. So they're trying to keep drones out for some reason of Disneyland. I don't know if that's a national security incident or if that's just a temporary. Interesting. Okay, so we have that. Let's go to, let's close this. These are the other NOTAMs we looked at. This is the map from the FAA. And we see all the red things, which we identified as, you can't transport there or fly there. It's special use airspace. But pay attention down here. Down here, we talked about you can't have drones flying around the Mobile, Pensacola, Panama City, that area. But pay attention down here. They've put up some special use air restrictions. They haven't told you can't totally fly in them, but they have had some weird boxes take off. I mean, we know some of them, like over here, airspace because of air or space flights, space launches. And then you have the national security airspace. I think, was that Disney? Okeechobee, over the Charles Buck McLaughlin Range. Okay, so they're probably doing some kind of testing there. Of course, that's off of the farthest point of Key West. And of course, we know we have a naval base right down there where they have a TFR. But pay attention to these boxes over the next couple weeks, because someone tipped me off that there could be in the Gulf of America and off of the Atlantic coast a container ship that is just parked that is flying the flag of Iran. So pay particular attention to that. And then also the special use airspace off of the West Coast, how it extends out. Is that from missile launches? That's because that's from San Diego out into the ocean. So keep an eye on that. Go up here into Alaska. Look at this. Once again, is this going to be some test for the special airspace, or they're testing something? So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Unfortunately, this is just for pretty much the United States and outlying areas. I don't have any information about anything in Australia, although I'm sure there are some. So, but yeah, let's pay particular attention to down here in the Gulf of America and off of the coast, specifically off of the Floridian coastline. Let's pay close attention to that. All right, so that's from the FAA. And since we're talking about the aircraft, let's pull this up real quick here. This is, I made it where it was only military aircraft. When I bring up all the other aircraft, I mean, you can look and see pretty much almost the entire United States has an aircraft over it. But I'm specifically looking for military air traffic. When I first looked at this earlier, there was some really weird flights here, and they were black. So that meant they were at a high elevation off the Norfolk coast. I'm not sure what that was about. And they didn't have an aircraft associated with it. Usually you'll see like the T-38s flying out of the air bases. They're training. Sometimes they'll be on missions, but they're usually training. There's just not a lot of surprising activity around Washington, D.C. You see a lot of military training with the helicopters here of late, but and a lot of these were that so many. This is down here around the Alabama, Florida coastline, Dothan. That's a lot of training operations. Let's see, what does that sound? That is a K-135 Stratotanker. Okay, so what that is he's giving fuel to, usually they support up to 30 different fixed wing fighter pilots. So he was giving fuel to them. You don't a lot of times see the jets until they come down low enough for them to get fuel and slow down, then they have to squawk. This R-135. It's a transport plane. Interesting. It's going from Texas, kind of circle around there. It's doing more than transporting. If it's circling around there, I'm going to imagine they're doing some kind of surveilling of this area, if I had to guess. This plane is not talking as to what it is, but it's flying pretty high, and look at it. It's circling right over that area over the Gulf of America we were talking about. And where did it come from? It came out of, shocker, it came out of Maryland. All right, so it's some kind of secret squirrel thing where they're down there doing some kind of surveillance. They'll never tell us exactly what it is, but they're looking at that area for something. So that's interesting. And let's see, I looked at all of them. Yeah, he's refueled. So yeah, transport, he's not transport, he's also surveilling. He's just surveilling at a lower altitude. But this guy's way up high coming out of Maryland. He's probably been refueled by this refueler here, if I had to guess. Coming from Maryland, he's refueled at least once, but he's up high. They're looking at something there. What it is they're looking at, we'll never know, but there's something they're watching. If you look here, this little circle here, this Boeing 737, they're also surveilling. I mean, look at that. They're just flying around Wilmington. They're trying to they're either refueling or they're trying to get some data, and he is not a tanker. So they're surveilling something off of the coast. We have operations typically with training flights. This is a T-38. This is coming out of probably Norfolk Air Station, and they're just training flights, teaching our pilots. A lot of times the pilots need hours to maintain their certification, so they'll do that. But at any rate, that just wanted to kid and I keep eyes there. And we'll notice too, and I haven't talked about this a whole lot, but this is another Navy T-38 just kind of flying our coastline. We see a lot of activity down here in San Diego. Could it be that they're taking people out, they're bringing people in? We don't know. But pay attention to our border here coming up. See that plane right there's Gulfstream. He's bringing dignitaries in and out. And here is a C-130 coming to the border from where? He's coming down from from Jacksonville. So, but pay attention to the border areas, because somebody brought something up to me. Andy's text messages have to somehow be involved. Somebody brought up to me, when Russia and Ukraine went to war, right along their border, they had a buildup. Well, our president has now declared our border to basically be a demilitarized zone and has activated a large amount of assets to the border. Our border is almost 100% contained at this time. Is it because of the military's presence? Or are we putting things there for a reason? I mean, obviously we're putting things there for a reason, but for an unknown reason to us. I don't think we're about to invade Mexico. It's not what I'm saying. But is there something else going on that we're flexing our muscles to show you can't come into the southwest border? I don't know the answer to that. I do know that we have a lot of troops. We have a warship in the Gulf of America and off of the coast of Pacific coast down into well, going almost all the way down, patrolling down to the Panama Canal, really. So keep an eye on that. We're running short here, so I want to try and speed this up a bit. I wanted to show you this because I show you the aircraft. This is marine traffic. And if I zoom out, you know, worldwide, look at all the marine traffic. The green is underway. The red, I believe, is returning. So they're underway. The green is underway to their destination, and the red is, I believe, going outwards, and they're done with their mission. But I would assume that they probably still have something on there. But I want to pay attention to this. The Panama Canal. We don't have military boots on the ground. Supposedly, there's a military presence in Panama, but BlackRock now has control of the Panama Canal. During our trade war, if we shut off all these vessels coming out of China, if they are still trying to do trade, even though they're not with us, they're using the Panama Canal to get to other parts of the world. If we shut that off, could that be a problem that's related to the troop buildup on the border of Mexico? Something to keep our eyes on. Something also that this doesn't really show a good deal of. There's a lot of just parked vessels. When I say a vessel, I'm talking about a boat. It's just parked. It's empty. It's not doing anything. There's no crews on it. It's just there. So there's a lot of that for different types of cargo ships, basically. But you can see their routes, just like you can see the aviation routes. They come from China and they extend out into the west, which is us. And then to continue further west, they go through the Panama Canal. But if we shut that off, look at that. They'd have to go all this way. We're already hurting their economy by our embargo. But if we closed off the Panama Canal to China, that could be trouble. But at any rate, that is in Wendell, I think you were talking about the other map because there's not a lot of marine traffic there. But our ports are still pretty busy. There's still ships waiting to get into our ports. If you look on both sides of the country, but more on the Atlantic side, the ports on the West Coast are not as busy. So we're already starting to see some of that affect the United States on the West Coast. So that just means we're going to have some higher prices for a while. So dig in, folks. Hopefully it'll get better. So, all right. The last few minutes here, we will go into, this is our crime map for the United States. Yeah, we're really running out of time today. Whew. All right. So, let's see. Major announcements. This come out of Washington. Japan is coming to the White House today to negotiate tariffs. That's very important. That wasn't on the schedule. So that must be some breaking news that came out. Outside of Washington, D.C., fatal house fire in PG County. And drunk driver hits an unoccupied police cruiser. He's in custody. Well, that's good news. Let's see. Man dead, woman injured after shooting in New Albany. And we'll zip across here and only look at some important things here. Chris, you've had some fires. 2-alarm fire overnight. And they were defensive operations. I'm going to make this large for you guys. 2-alarm fire in Chicago. Of course, we know we talked about a lot of gun crime, shots fired, fatality. Let's see, male, 19 shot and killed in Chicago. And we drop down here. Where else do we want to kind of highlight? Down in one dead after a shootout with police in Des Moines. That's not Des Moines. Des Moines. Is there a Des Moines in? No, I can't be the same one. Now, one fatality at Smith Lake in Coleman. It's one fatality at Smith Lake. Coleman EMA tells us there was a multiple boat accident. All right. That was in Coleman, Alabama. And where is this one? Man sentenced to death for the murder of Raven Swain in 2020. Is that the same one? Yeah. Raven Swain. I don't know anything about that case. Wendell, do you know anything about that case? That was in Alabama, over in Atlanta. Good Lord. Police are investigating a shooting in Southwest There's a shocker. It's always southwest. Go down to Florida. We see about the fires. They battle a 200-acre brush fire in Volusia. Fort Lauderdale, a man was rushed to the hospital after he was shot in Brownsville. It's not far from where the teenager was shot Tuesday, an unrelated crime. And this is up around Orlando. One person dead after car crashes into a lake during the celebration. Why'd you drive into a lake? Over where Ross is, St. Pete police say 2 men entered a residence before the homeowner fired shots. Suspects fled the scene. Well, here in the South, you're going to get greeted with a boomstick, usually, if you break in. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for you, but in the southern part of the United States, you're going to be met with a boomstick. 4 hours ago, a 3.8 magnitude earthquake over Ferndale, California. Wendell, you want me to look at, where is it you want me to look at? Volcanoes in Yellowstone. I don't see anything popping up on the map, Wendell. Yeah, I don't usually it would pop up on the map by here, but I don't see anything, but we'll keep an eye on that. Where was this? 2 people remain hospitalized after a fire in historic Galveston mansion. And we're running out of time here, folks, so I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the biggies. We'll go up to the Northeast real quick because I know we have some fans out of there. Where is this? Brush fire in Massachusetts. It leads to discovery of human remains. We need to follow up, keep an eye on that. They're working on a fire in Providence, Rhode Island. Actually, and what is this over in Cranston? A man is in critical condition after a stabbing. We've talked about this many times. Beware your surroundings because the amount of knife crimes are increasing. This was in Carlos Turan, a 34-year-old male, was fatally shot in the head on Clinton Avenue in Bronx. Another one was shot after that, was in critical condition, later pronounced dead. There are no arrests, so more gun crime in New York City. I know, shocker. Here we go. 10 hours ago, a man in his 40s stabbed in the abdomen and leg in Midtown Manhattan. The knife crimes are going to be increasing. A child died in an overnight fire in Newark. Another is critically injured. Philadelphia, one man is dead and another is fighting for his life after gunfire erupted in the streets of Philadelphia's center city. Oh, goodness. All right, so that is I hate to do this, but when we zoom out, we see there's a lot of gun crime in the country. And what is this one? This was over in Alaska. A man was shot and killed by police officers after he shot and injured a trooper during a standoff. Oh, goodness. I was in Alaska. We don't have too many reports of crazy stuff like that going on up there. Let's see. This will be an earthquake too. 4 hours ago, 3.8 off of the coastline of Ferndale. And 22 miles. They've had 2 separate earthquakes, 3.8, 2 hours ago near Ferndale. So, all right. Well, I don't want to keep hounding all this. We'll go real quick. I don't think World War Map Live is a shocker. Middle East, Russia, Ukraine. Okay, we know about that. The New England fire nets. I haven't really had time to check on it today, but we see most of the activity is up in the Northeast. The most recent one with a dump truck collision, 1 fatality, and that was in Dartmouth. And another one, there was a 11-year-old female struck by a vehicle in Massachusetts, and another building fire. There was also, it wasn't reported on here, but there was a child in Knoxville in Fountain City that was hit by a car and is fighting for its life in critical care at ICU. We will pull this up tomorrow and look at this. Chris says, you don't understand, Gleb. When guns are outlaws, all crime stops. Absolutely. Wendell says a bus driver from Georgia died Sunday on I-20 near Heflin. Was it natural causes or what? We'll look at these maps tomorrow, and then we'll also look at, this has increased since I first brought it up. These are the different, and I'm using air quotes here, weather balloons. All right, I've got to turn Rainbow Radio, Radio X Australia back over to Jurg's Radio. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'll finish up the show if you want to come over and see on the Sportcat Daily Gazette at Paranormal Guys is spelled with a Z on YouTube. Come over and follow us there. But I'm going to turn Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio back over to David Beckmeyer. He has a show, comes on at 3 o'clock. So if you're listening on Radio X, Rainbow Radio, or Yerg's Radio, you're going to get David Beckmeyer. And I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Radio X and Ross for helping me out through this difficult time. We will continue, and we will be on the air every day as long as we can. But until now, for Rainbow Radio, Yerg's Radio, Radio X, I will see you tomorrow. Everybody else on the YouTube channel, Paranormal Guys, hold on one second. We're going to kill the feed there, and it is turned over to them. All right. So just real quick, we'll look at all the different weather balloons here. And like I said, I use that in air quotes, weather balloons across the United States. Well, actually, let's zoom out a little bit and look at them here around the world. So these are air quotes, weather balloons. So we'll look into that a little bit more, but let's look at this as we go out of here. And this is from Bitdefender. This is at bitdefender.com. We know that China just admitted that they were trying to attack our infrastructure. So we're under attack currently from China. How will we respond? We see currently the attacks are red, the infections are yellow, and the spam is white, all coming in and just pounding the United States from Asia. It's probably down there in Venezuela, over in the Slavic areas of Middle East and Ukraine, just pounding the United States. But you don't see many shots fired going out from the United States. That should tell us something, because the command center is located in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, that does all these cyber attacks. And it's either totally silent or they're just not showing anything. But right now, it looks like they're pounding like Denver, Kansas City, out on the West Coast, maybe San Diego, Los Angeles. That's by the Venezuelans. They're just pounding us with constant attacks, trying to get into our infrastructure. And of course, they send the spam as well to try and get somebody to just click it. It takes one person working for VEPCO, Virginia Power, or Georgia Power, to click on reply all or click on that one thing, and boom, you got a virus in the system. So they're trying real hard. We see right now America is under attack. We'll go out with that. America is under attack. I want to thank everybody for staying with me here on the YouTube channel. Please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate it. It helps spread the wealth out and spread this knowledge out, because a lot of the guys with the bigger prepper shows have thousands, and some of them even greater than that, viewers. And we're blessed to have just a small group, but we want that group to grow. So please tell your friends and stuff, especially if you watch those shows like the Canadian Prepper or the New York Prepper. Those guys are great at what they do, but we do kind of a little bit different approach here. But we are showing America is under attack. So yeah, right now, our country is under attack by cyber attack, and China has admitted that. So interesting. We'll see where we go with this in the next couple of days, especially with the trade embargoes. So thanks, everybody. I know I thanked everybody at Radio X in Australia and Yerg's Radio. I appreciate them. Thanks to my regular viewers who tuned in and stayed with me. And thank you for all the messages and texts and emails for the past week or so that everybody's shot me message concerned about me and my family. I do appreciate it. It has been noted. Tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, tune in to the Paranormal Guys. For the Australian fans that are still hanging with us, we have the Rogue Hypnotist from Australia. And in Chris, we have a wrestler that's pretty famous that comes out of the Chicago area. So you'll like that. But all right, well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to leave this showing up as we go. But thanks, everybody. I will see you tomorrow. And until then, I need to come up with a catchphrase. Some of them stay locked, stay loaded, stay deadly. I don't know. Just stay safe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a great day. We'll keep watching this Bit Defender as we go out. Everybody, great day. I'll see you later. Or I'll see you tonight at 9 on this channel.